Hello and welcome to DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, one of your hosts. Your other hosts are Riley Fessler. How are you, Riley?
Not too bad.
Excellent. And Minna Stein. How are you, Minna?
Fabulous. How are you?
Fabulous. Well, we're halfway through the week. That's something. And somehow this week there's been all this insanity going on, dolls, planes falling off of ships and stuff. But it's not as crazy as past weeks, provided you're willing to live with two dolls. I mean, that's the real message of the week. How many dolls do you have, Riley?
I've got 0 dolls currently.
So you're a true American. You're a patriot.
I can get 2 more, though.
You're
before
a patriot.
I've met my quota.
And Minna, how many dolls do you have?
I'm at quota. I have 2.
You have 2 dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, don't you go one step over that, because it's bad for our country.
I'm going to have a 0 doll Christmas this year.
And so is everybody. We're going to all have a doll-less Christmas. It's kind of sad. In fact, there's a movie in it, The Christmas Without Dolls. It's sad. We could all weep a little bit. And Trump, of course, has alienated the little girl vote. Anyway, dolls are creepy, though, right? I mean, it's the reason that, like, every scene of a war-torn society, the photographer finds a doll in the rubble and takes a picture of it. Or broken dolls, or dolls that hop out of their toy chest and start killing the family. That's a kind of horror movie trope. I guess I don't know why I'm on this. This has been in the news a lot. It's really on my mind.
So in a way, Trump is being very symbolic.
He really is. He really hits the dolls in the shattered rubble of our society. Well, on that cheerful note, maybe change the subject. I mean, stop me from going down this pathway here.
All right, we'll switch the subject to something equally cheery.
Can you believe that like tens of thousands of people listen to this every week? These conversations. Why are you here, folks? What kind of? No, we're glad you're here. Sorry, we're glad you're here, and we're going to give you what you came for. Go ahead, Mitt.
India launched airstrikes against Pakistan in retaliation for a deadly military attack.
War between nuclear powers always makes me sigh with apprehension.
Fair enough. In retaliation for a deadly militant attack in India-administered Kashmir targeting what is claimed were terrorist camps without striking Pakistan military or civilian infrastructure. Pakistan condemned the strikes as an attack on civilians, claimed to have downed warplanes, and vowed retaliation, raising fears of escalation between the nuclear-armed neighbors. Global leaders, including the UN and US, have urged restraint, warning that miscalculation between the two could lead to a dangerously heightened conflict.
Yeah, no doubt that it could. And of course, it's a proxy. The Indians these days, most of their arms come from the U.S., and the Pakistanis these days, most of their arms come from the Chinese. So it's not just that these are nuclear armed states. And this Indian government is very close to the Trump administration because Modi is a lot like Trump. He's not really fond of democracy. He's a nationalist. He plays a lot on racism as part of his political card. J.D. Vance was in India not too long ago. And you got to wonder if, the nature of this relationship came up. Of course, this does happen every few years. And the last time there was a confrontation of this sort was 5 or 6 years ago. But that doesn't make it any less dangerous, because this is the kind of thing where a miscalculation could lead to escalation, and escalation could lead to cataclysm. And, we have to watch this very closely. And it would be super helpful if the United States were the great power it once was, and was able to use diplomacy as it has in the past to help moderate these situations. We are no longer in that position. Riley?
The Trump administration is preparing to deport a group of migrants to Libya using a U.S. military plane, a move that raises serious legal and humanitarian concerns. Libya, a country in conflict with notorious detention centers, has been widely condemned by human rights organizations for its treatment of migrants. The operation aligns with the administration's broader strategy of deterrence by deporting migrants to dangerous countries and bypassing a standard due process. Similar controversial deportations to countries like El Salvador, Panama, and Costa Rica have already sparked legal challenges and international criticism.
Yeah, well, sure it would. I mean, all you have to do is, spend a couple of minutes this morning reading some of the descriptions of what migrant detention facilities in Libya are like. One describes them as hellholes. Of course, that's also how El Salvadoran prisons are described. And it does seem to be what the Trump administration is looking for. But since we don't know who the Trump administration is picking up, how they're picking them up, what degree of due process is involved, and whether they've actually picked up the right people, the other question is what happens when somebody ends up being flown from the U.S. and into one of these Libyan migrant detention facilities? Will they ever get out? Is there any ability for the United States to undo a mistake? Or is the intention, as it seems to be with El Salvador, to find places to cast people out of society where they can never get back again, and to have them suffer in as egregious a way as possible? Watch the story closely. If the Trump administration blinks and doesn't send a plane load of people today, you can still expect it again soon. And while their diplomacy worldwide isn't working that well, see Gaza, see Ukraine, see the things they set as priorities, they sure do have a lot of time for making deals with places like El Salvador, Libya, and Rwanda to go and send people the Trump administration wants to get rid of. I don't just dare describe them in any other terms, because we don't know how many of them are guilty of anything at all. But it is just making a really, really ugly chapter in U.S. history uglier. Minimum.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer will meet the Chinese Vice Premier in Switzerland this weekend to begin de-escalating a trade conflict marked by high retaliatory tariffs. The talks come after President Trump imposed tariffs up to 145% on Chinese goods, prompting 125% countermeasures from Beijing, with both sides now signaling willingness to negotiate but warning against coercion or insincerity. While Bessent emphasized the aim is not a full trade deal but a step towards easing tensions, markets reacted positively to news of the meeting amid concerns over rising consumer costs and economic instability.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chinese have thought all along that the Trump administration is negotiating. This is going to be the first opportunity for them to sit down and, sort of see what the deal is, or how do you get there? Is it a step? Are there several steps? What do the steps look like? How do they help people economically? And of course, what's on the table? What won't be on the table are any of the things Trump talked about initially. This is not going to help manufacturing in the U.S. much. It's not going to change the trade deficit much, because they produce certain things we want to buy. And let's not lose sight of the fact that we want to buy them. And we produce other things that they want to buy, just not as much, and they save more money. And, if Trump really wanted to reduce the trade deficit, one thing he might want to work on is increasing the savings rate in the United States, which does have an effect on consumption that is actually, less deleterious than what he's talking about here. But the whole world is looking at Trump on trade and realizing there is no strategy, there is no end game, and they have to see what kind of deals they can strike. You may recall the last time the United States got into a trade tussle with the Chinese was, during the Trump administration, the last time around. And what the Chinese said they would do, and the Trump administration touted as a great deal, was the Chinese said they'd buy a bunch more stuff. And they didn't. It was just baloney. And I think, you need to look for that in a bunch of in whatever deals there are struck. I mean, the administration has said, oh, yeah, we could have lots of deals. We don't have them. In fact, yesterday, Trump, when sitting with the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, did a little disquisition on trade, which was incoherent and should scare the pants off anybody who's expecting economic stability. I'm surprised the markets didn't take it into consideration. He talked about the United States as if we were the corner stationery store. And it was kind of like, well, if they want to buy our stuff, they can buy our stuff. They don't have to buy our stuff. We don't need them to buy our stuff. And if we're not trading with China, then there's no deficit. And if there is no deficit, then there is no loss. And so we're actually saving money. So, getting rid of $1 trillion of trade with China is actually $1 trillion we don't spend. So it's a savings. So isn't that great? I can't even begin in the confines of a short podcast to describe how much is wrong about that. But I can say this: Donald Trump, in the course of his second term, has not said one thing about trade that is true. He has not expressed one idea about trade that is founded in reality or any kind of understanding of what goes on in international trade, and that some countries produce things that other countries want, and that's a good thing. And that there are ways to tweak trading situations that do not blow up the global economy, the international trading system, or undermine the world's faith in the United States as a trading partner. But we are not doing any of those right now. Can they back down into more reasonable territory? They're going to have to. Is there going to be a lot of bullshit surrounding it? Yeah. I mean, we've already gone from, oh, yeah, there are 200 trade deals pending to, why do people keep asking us about trade deals? We don't need trade deals. The other countries need trade deals. So this is a mess. They're going to try to find a soft landing for the mess, but none of it is going to achieve what they said it was, and all of it is going to cause pain and lasting negative consequences for the United States in the global economy. Riley?
Well, something of a PSA for my second story, and that is real ID requirements for domestic air travel in the U.S. officially take effect today, nearly 2 decades after the law was passed. As the deadline approached, long lines formed at DMVs and special centers nationwide, with some states extending hours to meet the surge in demand. While most travelers already have a real ID, those without one can still fly for now after undergoing extra identity checks at security. Officials urge travelers without compliant IDs to allow additional time at airports and consider waiting to apply if they don't have imminent travel plans.
Yeah, this is a dumb law that came in the wake of 9/11, where we were obsessed with, air security. The same obsession that makes people have to take their shoes off, even though there was only one instance ever of somebody putting a bomb in a shoe. And it has inconvenienced countless millions of travelers for no real benefit. We are now going through this rigmarole to change the nature of IDs so that every time you show your driver's license, it is also, proof of some federal form of citizenship or federal form of prior identification. And the reason it hasn't happened in the, 20 years since the law was passed, is because it's such a huge nuisance. And even Kristi Noem, not known for her sensitivity, yesterday said that she is going to, cut people a lot of slack over the next days and weeks if they don't have this done. But it does lead me to question, Minna, do you have a real ID?
I assume so.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's going to get you on. That's going to get you onto an airplane. Don't you think you ought to know this?
Probably, yeah.
Probably you should. I do, because I went and I got a driver's license when we moved from DC to Maryland. So you have to have a Maryland driver's license in order to register your car in Maryland. And by the way, the Maryland DMV, I got to tell you, folks, it's really good. You go online, you find the one closest to you, you make an appointment, you show up, they say, oh, okay, please have a seat. 1 minute later, because you're at an appointment, you just go to your thing and get, it's like, holy mackerel, why can't everybody do this? Anyway, Riley, do you have a real ID?
I do. I've got the little star in the corner of my ID, so I'm good.
Yeah. Minna's like, what? What star? Minna's
No,
not
okay.
going.
My ID does have a star on it, so I think I'm okay.
Minna's not going anywhere.
I'm not super locked in on my ID, and that's my fault. I should be, but
Do you have a driver's license, Minna?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that's a good.
But when I stopped driving, I hung my hat.
Oh, and said no more. Well, if you have a passport, you don't need this. You can use the passport, take it with you. But that's just one more thing to worry about losing on your trip. That's the way I look at that. Which is why in my phone, by the way, I have pictures of all the key pages of the passport in the memory. So that if I ever have to go into like a consulate, I can just show them the pictures, and then it's got all the key numbers. These are useful travel tips, folks. It's getting towards summer. You're probably planning to go someplace to import a lot of dolls to America because they're going to be going for top dollar. Minna?
I should start a travel show on our network where I just give advice, but like I don't really know the rules.
Yeah.
So it's just vague advice.
Right. It'd be like Minna's vague travel show. I really like to go someplace. I'm not sure where, but you should go there too. Who knows what's Riley's like? What are you guys talking about?
I think you need a real ID, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, no. Riley is a travel pro. I mean, he's already going. Like tomorrow, Riley's heading to the beach again.
Yep.
I mean, that's, you're going to North Carolina. You're going to have some of that. Do you understand the distinction between North Carolina barbecue and other kinds of barbecue?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, isn't theirs more of a vinegary sauce than...
That's correct. That is correct. You are the Guy Fieri. We'll have you can do a cooking show while Minna does her travel show.
Another famous Ohioan.
Guy Fieri?
Yeah. I think he's from Columbus.
I used to like diners, drive-ins, and dives, not because of him, because I've always found him kind of disgusting. But then, when I found out he was super MAGA, I stopped watching the show. And I got to tell you, when people become super MAGA, I stop watching their show. Like Stephen A. Smith, who does sports show on ESPN. I'm not watching it. I just don't, need that toxicity in my life. And speaking of which, by the way, when you set up your food show, the first thing you got to do is go and read the New York Times review of Guy Fieri's restaurant opening a few years ago on Times Square. It was the most brutal food review I've ever read in my life. Still, my friends who are foodies, they like every year at a certain date, Guy Fieri Day, they read it out loud because it was... it's just entertaining. You want a little light and refreshment in your life, don't go to his restaurant, but read this review. Because, woo! Anyway, what we ask?
Guy's Great American Dumpster Fire.
That's what it is. Is that what it's called? Was that the name of the review? I don't know. But that's exactly what the thrust of it was. All right, you've got a last story. Let's do the last story.
Yes.
Stop all this folderol.
The FDA has appointed Dr. Vinay Prasad, a hematologist oncologist known for his criticism of COVID-19 vaccine policies and other past controversial statements, as its new head of the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, while FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary praised Prasad for bringing, quote, scientific rigor and independence. Critics argue he lacks vaccine-specific expertise and has spread harmful misinformation, particularly regarding COVID vaccines for children. The appointment sparked backlash from public health experts and a drop in biotech stocks, highlighting concerns over the agency's direction under the Trump administration.
Concerns. Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned because I'm a human, and there are all sorts of viruses and bacteria and all sorts of terrible things on this planet that can make me sick. And I would rather my government was using science and medicine to protect me and to help others to protect me. But they're not. And when they say independence, when this Trump administration refers to somebody as being independent with regard to being a scientist or doctor, what they mean is they are nuts, or they have embraced crazy science. I find it stunning that here we are 5 years after the COVID outbreak, and the lessons of the COVID outbreak, which is prepare for epidemics, promote scientific research, provide the facilities to the medical community that it needs, make sure that everybody else has health care, educate everybody into the science of keeping healthy, because it doesn't just help them, it helps all of society, because we all live together in a community and diseases are transmitted. And so the weakest links are the ones that bring down the society. All of those lessons we've tossed out. Every single one of the things we should have learned, we didn't learn. And instead, we now have an administration that embraces all the wrong lessons, like, oh, vaccines, they're a nuisance. I don't want to get my vaccines. I don't want to believe science. I want to do crazy stuff, and they've got crazies in charge of it. We had a podcast this week, and we're going to do these deep dive podcasts every week looking at different issues that are going on. But we had a deep dive podcast this week with Dr. Kavita Patel, who ran, healthcare policy in the Obama White House, and Pulitzer Prize winner Laurie Garrett, who's written more about this more intelligently than almost anybody, and who we talked to throughout the COVID epidemic, to talk about where we are right now in health policy. And if you have not stopped and listened to it, and it's in the slot of our Deep State Radio podcast this week, so we wanted it to get the biggest possible audience. If you have not listened to it, listen to it. And if you have listened to it, you know what I'm talking about, share it with other people. This is really, really important information. It is literally life and death information. We'll have them back. We need to stay in this. This story is every bit as big as the story about the violation of the rule of law, the story about trying to undermine democracy, the story about attacking climate science. Laurie deals with that to some degree in the podcast. The story about undermining our national security and our alliances worldwide. The story about economic catastrophe and undermining America's standing internationally, economically. All of those are giant stories. And it's very easy, as one or another dominates the headlines, to miss the others. Having a certifiable loon like RFK Jr. running your healthcare system is the worst case. It's like they went out and they said, who is the worst person we could find in America for this job? And they gave it to him. And the Congress approved it. And when the people start to die, and Laurie talks about the tuberculosis outbreak that's in the Midwest, and Laurie and Kavita talk about the measles outbreaks, and all of them are aware that we have cut funding for research, that we are going to make it harder to get vaccines, that the supply chains for vaccines are at risk, that a lot of the key ingredients for vaccines come from China and India, and we are now in trade wars with them, which are going to make the vaccines impossibly expensive, and that we are stopping international programs that were under USAID that stop the development and spread of epidemics overseas, which we do not just because we're good folks. We do it because it's in our self-interest. Because if Ebola breaks out in Africa, on a planet where people are getting on and off airplanes every day, it's going to make it here. And we have done literally everything to unilaterally disarm and make America less safe and less healthy in profound ways. You will have members of your family get sick, God forbid, but you will know people who died as a result of all of this. And I haven't even started on cutting back on Medicaid and the ability of people to afford health care. So it's really important. I strongly urge you to go listen to this episode and give us feedback on these things. We're going to do these deep dives every week. Give us feedback, because we'll do more, and we'll do it in the areas that you want us to do it. Starting next week, these episodes are going to be called Need to Know, same as our podcast series. And the way they're going to work is that if you're a member, you'll get to hear them right away. So you'll have a week jump on everybody else. If you're not a member, you'll get to hear them, but it's going to be a week later. And that's going to be true of several of the podcasts here, because we want to encourage more people to become members. We're super happy with the growth of DSR. Over the course of the past 10 years, we've gotten now so that each and every month, 1.5 million times a month, our podcasts are downloaded and listened to by people. We see that as a responsibility. We want to do more, better with real expertise. That does require support. So now is an inflection point. It's going to be more and more important to become a member. You'll also get ad-free podcasts and other benefits. So if you haven't done it now, do it now. It's going to bring you a lot of value. Come back tomorrow. We'll talk about more things, not real IDs, not Minna's travel tips, but other things that you need to hear about. We hope you will join us for that. And we hope you will join us for our other podcasts. Until then, thanks, Minna. Go get a real ID. Thanks, Riley. Pack. Prepare for your trip. Packing is the one thing that ensures you of a good, smooth vacation. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.